Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and as always, welcome to the African MSME Collective, a space where we talk and laugh, but do serious business about business. Karibuni sana, my name is Chesubire Talitwana Grade, and you are listening in to The Growth Edge. At The Growth Edge, we help businesses figure out what they need to do in the simplest terms possible, and then we help them deploy. So this is a thinking space, a listening space, a learning space. And we're in the middle of a very interesting conversation. So make sure you stay locked and loaded. This will be worth every moment you spend. But I'd like to welcome my guest. Every week we have a guest, same guy for a while now, because we're trying to unpack his brain. I jokingly said to our speaker that we need to download his brain and his experience, and he laughed. That is my very personal intention. So as always, we have Joe Mukoko, who's on the hot seat today. And Joe, what one thing has stood out for you about business this week?
Thank you, Chesubire. I still have to figure out what unpacking the brain means and how we are going to do it. You know, when you say unpacking the brain, I remember those guys with devices. You know, the way they do it in the movies and they say, we are removing, you know, then they put an implant. So those are the visions that are going through my mind. And I'm like, here, this would be serious, but I am looking forward to the results of the unpacking of the brain. Thank you, Chesubere. That was on a light note. Now let me get back to serious business. One thing that has stood out for me this week is that the SME, the African SME, and as I talk about African SME, is resilient. That despite the global shocks that are occurring with the markets, the economies, the rates, our own personal businesses, do we call them businesses or what do we call them? Our own personal economies in terms of trouble. The SMEs are still moving forward. And that is key. That the resilience is showing an optimistic view towards life. For me, that is huge. You see, business does not survive on hope. But optimism means that they are looking ahead and want to be better and want to grow and want to thrive. So that was huge. We're just having discussions with people from across, not people, consultants from across Africa, and their views when we were exchanging the challenges that are happening across Africa and the opportunities that lie within Africa are almost similar. We could be divided by borders, but there's a common thread across the continent. Thank you.
Thank you. I like that there's a common thread across the continent. That's a very powerful statement. So this week we're continuing with something that actually ties with that, the common thread across the continent. Last week we talked about delegation, and two things stood out. It's the art of allowing others to help you reach your goal, and it's also the ability to assign responsibility. That was big for me. Today we want to go into the how-tos. Last week we did definitions, benefits, and all those things. But when we think about delegation, we mentioned that sometimes the biggest thing we have as MSMEs is the fear of losing control. So today we want to discuss how do we delegate in a way that will help us overcome that fear we have of losing control. So a few quick things, Joe. What should we be looking to do with delegation?
I know you're seeing me smiling and you're wondering why is Joe smiling. Okay, I am away from unpacking the brain and I'm coming back to delegation. You know, one of the things that happens in business is we grow and then we get to a point where we need assistance, where you need to stop being the CEO, CFO, chief marketing officer, chief people and culture, all those things put together, you know, chief supplies person. So you wear a PhD in many hats. You have to bring people on board. One key benefit of delegation is empowerment. We are able to grow our teams. Empowerment. You grow the team, whether, let's look at it from two angles. One, if you have an internal team, that means you've already defined your vision, mission, values, all those things, and the culture that you would like the business to have. Okay? When you're coming to delegate, it means your delegation should follow the same principles. What is your focus as a business, and how do you want to achieve that focus? Why and when? You're able to grow your team. When you grow your team, it means two things. One, you will upskill them, that there can be very many versions of mini you, or there can be people who can handle tasks when you're not available or when another team member is not available. So the linchpin redundancy is gone, is done away with. That Joe did not appear, so work cannot happen. Then if you're growing, if you are using, let's say, suppliers, external suppliers, you take them through what it is you would like done and how you would like done. Remember, your final customer does not know your supplier. They know your brand. You will also have empowered your suppliers. And they will learn a thing or two from you, and you will learn a thing or two from them, and you will grow. Number two is morale. Let's take it back to the homestead. Or maybe it didn't happen to you. You are the last born. But look at situations where your brother was given power to control because parents are away, or your eldest sibling has been given power and told you're in charge and the parents are gone. They try to make sure that everything is in order. Thou shalt keep the house clean. Thou shalt eat your fruits and vegetables and complete them. Okay? Thou shalt do your homework. They make sure that those things are done. Come back to the workspace. When you empower your team and you empower someone to do a task that for them seemed far-fetched, but they are able to do it, means you have motivated them to be a better person and a better team player. Then when we get rid of the linchpin redundancies, that means our bottom line can improve. Fresh insights, fresh minds, fresh energy. And also, work doesn't stop because Joe did not appear or Chesubire was not present. Customers still get served. Allow me to narrate a small story of these young men from Kangemi who do what we call in Kenya KDF, or they had mandazi. You are the one with the language. You will tell me what it is called in English. KDF. Okay, if you tell our international viewers KDF, they will try figuring out what KDF is. So as I am narrating the story, I know you will get away of telling us what it is. And these young men have divided themselves into three groups. Those who run the factory those who distribute to other shops, and those who sell at different points. Now, for those who sell at different points, they sell at 3 points, but they have 2 at any given time who should be free. And what happens is, if when they are not working, they're in the factory, okay, assisting with the production of the KDF, with the production of that hard pastry filled with sugar, flour, and margarine, and sometimes cinnamon. They do that and they do bread. In the event that one of these 3 cannot be at his station, one of the 2 goes to that particular station. Okay? So every day, the stations are manned. Factory can run perfectly well with 3, but they have 2. In the event that one of the 3 is not available, one of the 2 can come pick up the task and run. Each of the teams has a team leader and an assistant team leader. That in the event that the team leader is not there, operations will not stop. The assistant team leader picks it up and is able to make decisions. And they run, they cooperate, and they move ahead. You see, that means that the business doesn't stop. Same thing to our own enterprises. Remember I told you about Njoki and her shop. Njoki has trained her suppliers in a way that the ones who bring her honey for her to sell, sugar for her to resell, it has to be in a certain way. Because she tells them, if my regulars come, they will pick and go. But if it's a new client who comes and picks and finds something is not up to standard, it's trouble. And that has meant the teams ensure consistency in her products. Then lastly, we are looking at an increase in productivity and efficiency. Goes back to the same story I have given of the young men in Kangemi doing the bread product. You will never stop. Business keeps on running. And because business is running, the end customer does not know your internal dramas, you've sorted them out. In the event that a particular person is not there, someone else is able to pick their task and run with it. Thank you. Back to you, Chesube.
It's interesting that you have brought those up. So we're talking about team growth so we can upskill and promote. We're talking about improved morale. We're talking about improved sales, better bottom line, and finally, productivity and efficiency. When we think about delegation, we're not always thinking about that as the first thing. We're thinking about, I want to do less. I don't want to be here as much as before. And what has struck me is delegation is so that we can move up to do the strategic stuff, or strategic, depending on where you learned your English. Now, this is why I keep saying we need to unpack your brain. Because the story you've given about the young men, I'm a bit at loss of what to call it. So I'll call it a rock band. Because it's about, what, 2 inches tall, 3 inches tall. It's really, it's dense. I even struggle. I can't even eat one. I can't finish one. It's so filling. It's a really filling, let me call it a pastry that is sold on the street so that when you have 1 or 2, you're good to go for the rest of the day. Your energy is sorted. And that's really a response to the needs of the market. So delegation helps you actually capture your market properly and serve it properly. It reminds me, and I don't know if you've seen them on the streets in the lower end, the downtown in Nairobi. There are people with carts of cake. If you buy the full cake, it's 100 shillings, but you can buy a slice for 10, for 20, for 30. So when you walk up to them and you say, I want cake, they're like, how much? And I think that's a very interesting system, because there is somebody with a bakery somewhere, and these become. So what you really talked about is you have to have your production line sorted. So that's the person in the bakery, your distribution, which how you get these things to the market, your retail outlets, or avenues, so forth. Many of us, it's our shop floors, and then you have oversight, which is making sure that, oh, there's one person missing here, one person missing, then filling the gap. And if that is not a good reason to delegate, because then I can move to the place where I can focus on expansion, connection, communication, and picking up from the Jerry's story, enabling our suppliers to know what our customers need, and then we deliver the right thing. So if delegation had not made sense to you before, I surely hope that from this conversation, delegation is a different thing in your mind. The reality is we cannot function without delegation. That's the reality. So go back into your business, figure out what is not working, what you can give to somebody else. So you empower your team, you eliminate things from your desk, and all this is done by evaluation. So we'll come back and talk about some of those things, what we need to evaluate, what we need to eliminate. I think, Joe, that would be a fantastic conversation for another episode. A 10-second parting shot. 10 seconds.
10-second parting shot. You're not King Kong. Get help. Educate people to work with you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming. You're not King Kong. Get help. And that's it from us at the Growth Edge today. If you've not watched King Kong, go watch the movie. But whatever you do as a business owner, get help and build your business to last. Have an excellent rest of the day, whatever time it is where you are. And this is the Growth Edge, signing out and saying ciao. Kwaheria kuonana. You are not King